Okay, so to redo the topology in ZBrush, first of all, you'll have a mesh, and it'll probably be extremely high poly, like this one is, because you use Dynamesh, or you're just focusing on getting the right shape. You can see how many polys it is if you hover over the tool, and then it says polys. And this one is 294,400. Okay, so that's way too much. Current computers can probably do that, but there's no point because we can make good topology, and it'll actually perform even better and be easier on the computer. So we need to redo it. So first thing you need to do is go to your tools and you select the Z-sphere. And then from there, we're going to go to rigging, and we're going to select the mesh. We're going to go to Polymesh 3D sphere, which is her face, and let's go ahead and move this Z-sphere, and we'll scale it down so it's in the center. It doesn't really matter if it's centered, but it's kind of helpful. Okay, back to draw mode. Now, if we go to topology, we can go to, actually, what was it? We want to edit topology. Okay, so now we've got that topology there. We're going to, that's not making it very easy to see in the background. Let's see if I can forget how to turn that off. Yeah, there we go. That turned it off. Okay, so frame. Okay, so now I've edited. I'm in edit topology mode. I'm going to change my brush down to size 1. I'm going to press X so that I can mirror what I'm doing. Yeah, there it goes. And I can, anywhere I click is going to create a vertex. And then clicking between vertices, additional vertices is going to connect those vertices into an edge to the one that has a red dot. So let me undo a couple times. And it doesn't do a great job of showing you where they're at. So if you hold down Control, then you can select one, and we'll come to the center and click. So there we've got one red dot. So I'm kind of creating my center line right now. You want to branch out from that. Just come out here and you can join in. And you always want to keep track of where that red dot is at, because that's your last active point. So I'm drawing in topology. Now if I want to move where the active point is at, then I hold down Control and click. Okay, and you can still rotate around, and you can see how that is drawing a mesh on top of that mesh. Okay. Now, if I wanted to see how this is looking, and it's good to check often, you press A, and it's going to show you the adaptive skin for that mesh that you're drawing. So you can have to toggle. Just press A again to get back. But anytime you navigate or move, you're going to have to reactivate one of these by pressing Control and clicking. Yeah. Then you got to use the right buttons. So this is how to create topology, but this is not necessarily how to create good topology. So when we talk about good topology, what we're thinking about is, so you can, obviously you can remove topology too. I'm just holding down the Alt key and it puts a little minus sign next to it, the cursor, and then if I click, it'll remove it. So good topology is topology that when the mesh is deforming, so let's say when the eye was deforming and the eyelid wanted to come up, that the edges, so the edges when they compress, or the faces when they compress, I should say, the angles stay squarish. Just kind of stay squared off. And so if the eyelid were to rotate up at this point, then these would stay somewhat square, right? Well, it gets especially hard in cartoon, with cartoon stuff, feature animation, because the eyes can move in their socket, not just rotate, but they can actually shift the eye over to the side of the head a little bit if they want to, or even a lot, depending on how cartoony it is. You know, think of like, you know, Looney Tunes sort of stuff. So you'd want to be aware of that when you're drawing this topology on there. You can create this however you want. Now, most of the time, you don't actually start here. This is just a tool that's existed in ZBrush for a very long time. I don't know that they make many tutorials about this tool anymore, but this gives you the most control. Now, I'm not going to show you all this. I'm just going to mention that it exists. But there are, you have a ZRemesher, and you can use this as well to remesh your object. And there are tutorials on this. There's a bunch of them, and there's some great ones on their website. So it'd be better if you use theirs instead of mine for that. But this one, ZRemesher, yeah. So now let me see if I can't back up and give you one more scenario, which I didn't give you the other day, Scott. I'm going to go back to this sweater, and I'm going to split it apart so we can see just the sweater. Split the parts. Okay. Delete. Okay. Now we can retopologize this mesh that already has a good geometry, but let's say that we noticed an imperfection and we want to make it even better. So again, the first step is to go to the Z-sphere, then go to rigging, select the mesh. There it is. There's my mesh. Go to topology. We want to select that topology. Now we see those same active points that we saw when we were drawing our own mesh on there, and we can use all those same tools. So we can edit, click edit topology, and now let's say I didn't like this section here. I can delete it and redraw it in how I think it should be. which I'm just going to put it back how it was, but I kind of liked it. But it's an option. So that's how you could retopologize something. And so a lot of times what will happen, in my experience, is I'll use that Z remesher and it'll turn out a pretty good mesh. And then after I use it, then I come in here and I'll edit the topology that it created. And so, because most of the time it does a pretty good job, and it'll get me like, 75 to 90% of the way. But there's problematic areas that it just can't figure out, like in the shoulders usually. But areas that have to deform a lot. And then I would come here and I would edit the topology that way.
You created that hoodie to use.
So this is, I did the same thing as when I was creating a mesh from scratch, just drawing on top of an existing mesh, except this time I went to select mesh, selected it there in the rigging menu, then topology. Oh, why does it look different? Let's click to edit topology. That's not right. So let's do it over from scratch. So let's select this, go to a new Z-sphere. Okay, we'll unbind that. Yes, something about how they programmed it. The Z-spheres are you're actually drawing, from what I understand, you're actually drawing Z-spheres. Those are your edges. And then it uses that to generate the mesh. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. They've got a world-class product, though, to be fair to them. Topology. Why am I not? Oh, there's delete topology. Okay. Select. I don't know how to unselect something. Do that. Delete it. Oh, that's weird. It's nothing to view. My Z-sphere, the only Z-sphere I have now is the one that already has a mesh on it. Huh. Oh, there we go. Delete mesh. Okay. So if you do it this way, it's a good thing I did this actually. So if you do it this way and you didn't have that rigging mesh underneath it, then when you were to remove things, so then you don't have that surface underneath that you're drawing on top of. And that's an important part of being able to, keep your shape. Looks like I can delete it that way. I didn't see that earlier. Okay, so now to get back to that mode, I got my Z-sphere. Need to go to rigging, select mesh. There's my hoodie. Go to topology, select a mesh, same mesh. You could do two different ones if you wanted to. If you had one that had a really nice shape and another one that had decent geometry, then you could have that kind of be the one with the good geometry be your work in progress, and you could make that match your one with a good shape if you wanted to. Anyway, so with that selected, click edit, And then that Z-sphere disappears, and now you're in the editing mode where you can remove stuff and redraw it if you want. Anyway, another thing that's nice is you still have your move tools and things. If you needed to just shift this stuff around, so you can change your brush size. And I'm in the move tool now. Now I can just kind of mush the mesh around if I want to. So that's really handy as well, and it stays on the surface. Yeah, it's just the regular old move tool. And you could do the same thing with scale. Yeah, you can just push it where you want it to go. You can also smooth, I believe, it's still, if you hold down Shift. That made a mess out of it, but you'd want to be in draw mode maybe. You can change your intensity down. That just deleted it. I thought you could smooth. Maybe you can't. Anyway, there's options. And I really like this. This method does not exist in Maya. They've tried to create tools that do something similar, but to my knowledge, they haven't been successful yet.